Marcus never expected to deliver a baby on a dark, rainy highway. But when he stopped to help a desperate woman in labor, he discovered something that would change everything. The woman screaming in pain was his ex-wife who had abandoned him and their daughter 2 years ago. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The rain hammered against Marcus's windshield like angry fists. His wipers worked overtime, squeaking with each desperate swipe across the glass. The highway stretched endlessly before him, dark and slick with water that reflected his headlights like broken mirrors. "Daddy, I'm scared," whispered Emma from the back seat. His 8-year-old daughter clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter, her small face pressed against the window. Marcus glanced at her through the rearview mirror, his heart breaking a little more. This was supposed to be their weekend together. Their first real father-daughter trip since the divorce was finalized 6 months ago. Instead, they were driving through the worst storm he'd seen in years, trying to get back home before the roads became completely impassable. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said, forcing his voice to stay calm. "We'll be home soon." But even as he spoke the words, Marcus knew they were a lie. The radio had been crackling with warnings about flash floods and road closures. Traffic had slowed to a crawl and now they were barely moving at all. That's when he saw the car. It was pulled over on the shoulder about 100 yards ahead, hazard lights blinking frantically through the rain. Marcus almost drove past. He had his own daughter to worry about after all. But something made him slow down, then stop. Through the rain-streaked passenger window, he could see someone waving their arms desperately. "Stay in the car, Emma," Marcus said, pulling his hood up. "I'll be right back." He jogged through the pounding rain, his shoes splashing through puddles that seemed to appear from nowhere. As he got closer to the stranded car, he could hear something that made his blood run cold. Screaming. A woman was in the driver's seat, her head thrown back in obvious pain. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. When she saw Marcus approaching, her eyes went wide with relief and terror. "Please," she gasped between contractions. "Please help me. The baby's coming." Marcus felt his world tilt. He'd never delivered a baby before. He was just a computer programmer, a single dad who could barely manage to get his daughter to school on time with matching socks. But looking at this woman's face, twisted with pain and fear, he knew he couldn't walk away. "Okay," he said, opening the passenger door and sliding in, rain dripping from his jacket. "Okay, we're going to do this together. What's your name?" "Sarah," she panted. "Sarah Mitchell." The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at her face, really looked at her for the first time. Even contorted with pain, even soaked with rain and sweat, he recognized her. The brown eyes, the way she bit her lower lip when she was scared, the small scar above her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike at age 7. This was his ex-wife. This was Emma's mother. The woman who had walked out on them 2 years ago, saying she wasn't ready to be a mother, that she needed to find herself. The woman who had missed Emma's birthday parties and school plays, who had broken their daughter's heart over and over again with promises she never kept. And now she was here in labor asking for his help. Marcus felt a storm of emotions crash over him, anger, hurt, confusion, and underneath it all, a deep, aching sadness. But there was no time to process any of it. Sarah let out another scream and he could see the baby's head crowning. "I need towels," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. "Do you have anything clean?" Sarah pointed weakly toward the back seat. There was a small overnight bag there. Marcus grabbed it, finding a few clean shirts and a small blanket. His hands shook as he spread them out, but his voice remained calm. "You're doing great, Sarah. Just breathe with me. In and out, in and out." For the next 20 minutes, Marcus forgot about everything else. He forgot about the rain, about the traffic, about the years of hurt and abandonment. He focused entirely on bringing this new life into the world. He coached Sarah through each contraction, held her hand when the pain became too much, and when the baby finally slipped into his waiting hands, he felt something shift inside his chest. The baby was perfect. Tiny and wrinkled and absolutely perfect. It was a girl, let out a lusty cry that somehow cut through the sound of the rain. "She's beautiful," Marcus whispered, wrapping the baby in the blanket. "Sarah, she's absolutely beautiful." Sarah was crying now, but they were tears of relief and joy. She reached out with trembling hands and Marcus gently placed the baby on her chest. The little girl immediately quieted, as if she knew she was exactly where she belonged. "Thank you," Sarah sobbed. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't stopped." Marcus sat back, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off and reality was creeping back in. He looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and saw something he hadn't noticed before. She looked older, more worn down than he remembered. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, and her clothes were threadbare. "Sarah," he said quietly. "It's me. It's Marcus." She looked up at him, blinking through her tears. For a moment, recognition didn't dawn. Then her face went completely white. "Marcus?" she whispered. "Oh my God. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the rain on the roof and the soft breathing of the newborn baby. Finally, Sarah spoke again. "I know you must hate me," she said, her voice barely audible. "I know I don't deserve your help. But thank you. Thank you for stopping." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I could never hate you, Sarah. I was angry for a long time, yes. But I could never hate you." "How is she?" Sarah asked suddenly. "How is Emma?" The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. "She misses you," he said simply. "Every day she misses you." Sarah closed her eyes, fresh tears streaming down her face. "I wanted to come back so many times. I wanted to call, to write, to just show up at your door. But I was so ashamed. I left you both when you needed me most, and I didn't know how to make it right." "Why did you leave?" Marcus asked. It was the question that had haunted him for 2 years. Sarah was quiet for a long time, stroking the baby's tiny hand. "I was scared," she finally admitted. "I was 25 and terrified that I was going to mess up our daughter's life. My own mother she wasn't good to me, Marcus. She was cold and distant, and I was so afraid I would be the same way. I thought Emma would be better off without me." Marcus felt his heart crack open. "You were a good mother, Sarah. You were nervous, yes, but you were good." "I didn't feel good," she whispered. "I felt like I was drowning every day. And then when Emma got sick that winter and I couldn't make her feel better, I broke. I convinced myself that you would be better at taking care of her alone." Marcus remembered that winter. Emma had caught a particularly bad flu, and Sarah had barely slept for a week taking care of her. She had been exhausted and emotional, but he had never guessed she was struggling so deeply. "You should have talked to me," he said gently. "We could have worked through it together." "I know that now," Sarah said. "But I was so young and so scared. I thought running away would solve everything. Instead, it just made everything worse." The baby stirred in Sarah's arms, making soft cooing sounds. Marcus watched her tiny fingers curl and uncurl, and felt something he hadn't expected, a sense of peace. "What's her name?" he asked. "I don't know yet," Sarah admitted. "I've been thinking about it for months, but nothing felt right." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Emma always wanted a little sister. She used to make up names for her imaginary sister. Her favorite was Hope." Sarah's eyes filled with tears again. "Hope," she repeated softly. "That's perfect." They sat together in the warm cocoon of the car, listening to the rain and watching baby Hope sleep. Finally Marcus spoke. "Where are you living now?" he asked. Sarah's face flushed with embarrassment. "I've been staying at a shelter downtown. I work at a diner, but the pay isn't much. I've been saving up to get my own place before the baby came, but—" She gestured helplessly. Marcus felt his heart break all over again. "Sarah, you don't have to live like that. You have options." "I don't want your pity," she said quickly. "I made my choices and I have to live with them." "This isn't about pity," Marcus said firmly. "This is about family. This is about Emma having her mother back, and about this little girl having a safe place to grow up." Sarah looked at him with something like wonder. "After everything I've done, you would still help me?" "I never stopped loving you," Marcus said quietly. "I was angry and hurt, but I never stopped loving you. And Emma? Emma has been asking me every day when you're coming home." Sarah began to cry again, but this time they were tears of hope. "I don't know how to make it right," she whispered. "I don't know how to be the mother Emma deserves." "We'll figure it out," Marcus said. "Together. One day at a time." Just then there was a knock on the car window. Marcus looked up to see a paramedic in a bright yellow raincoat. The ambulance had finally arrived. "Sir? Ma'am? We're here to help." The next hour was a blur of activity. Sarah and baby Hope were loaded into the ambulance, and Marcus followed them to the hospital in his car, Emma wide-eyed and full of questions in the back seat. "Daddy, who was that lady?" Emma asked as they sat in the hospital waiting room. Marcus looked down at his daughter, this brave little girl who had been through so much. "That was your mama, sweetheart. She's been away for a while, but she's back now." Emma's eyes went wide. "Mama? Really? Really? And you have a new baby sister?" Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then she said, "Is Mama going to leave again?" The question broke Marcus's heart. I don't think so, baby. I think she's going to stay this time. How do you know? Marcus thought about the woman he had just helped bring a new life into the world. He thought about the fear and shame and love he had seen in her eyes. He thought about the way she had looked at baby Hope, like she was the most precious thing in the world. Because sometimes people get lost, he said finally. But that doesn't mean they can't find their way home. 3 hours later, Marcus and Emma were allowed to visit Sarah and the baby. Emma hung back shyly at first, uncertain about this mother she barely remembered. But when Sarah saw her, her face lit up with such pure joy that Emma couldn't help but smile back. Hi, baby, Sarah said softly. You've gotten so big. Hi, Mama, Emma whispered back. Do you want to meet your sister? Emma nodded eagerly, and Sarah carefully placed baby Hope in her arms. Emma's face was a picture of wonder and love as she looked down at the tiny baby. She's so little, Emma breathed. And she's beautiful. Just like you were when you were born, Sarah said, reaching out to stroke Emma's hair. I'm so sorry I went away, sweetheart. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Mama, Emma said, and Marcus had to turn away to hide his tears. Later, after Emma had fallen asleep in the hospital chair, Marcus and Sarah talked long into the night. They talked about the past, about their mistakes and their regrets. They talked about the future, about what it would mean to try again as a family. I'm not the same person I was when I left, Sarah said. I've learned things about myself, about what I want and what I'm capable of. I'm not going to run away again, Marcus. I promise. I'm not the same person either, Marcus admitted. Being a single parent changed me. I'm stronger now, more patient. But I'm also more careful with my heart. I understand, Sarah said. I don't expect you to trust me right away. I have to earn that back. We'll take it slow, Marcus agreed. For Emma's sake and for Hope's. We'll figure out what works. As the sun began to rise through the hospital window, painting the room in soft golden light, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. Real, honest hope for the future. 6 months later, Sarah had her own small apartment just a few blocks away from Marcus and Emma. She had a better job at a local bakery, and she was taking night classes to become a nurse. Most importantly, she was building a relationship with both her daughters. Emma spent weekends with Sarah, helping to take care of baby Hope and slowly learning to trust her mother again. It wasn't always easy. There were tears and arguments and moments of doubt. But there was also laughter and bedtime stories and the quiet joy of a family healing. Marcus and Sarah were taking things even slower. They were friends first, co-parents second, and maybe someday something more. They had both been through too much to rush into anything. But on quiet evenings when Emma was asleep and Hope was nursing, they would sit together and talk about their days, their dreams, their fears. Do you think we'll make it? Sarah asked one night as they watched Hope sleep in her crib. Marcus thought about that rainy night on the highway, about the moment when he had recognized the woman he was helping. He thought about the choice he had made to stay, to help, to forgive. I think we already have, he said. And in the soft light of the nursery, with their daughters breathing peacefully nearby, Marcus knew that sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead us exactly where we need to be. Sometimes getting lost is just the first step toward finding your way home. The rain had stopped long ago, but the hope it had brought remained, growing stronger with each passing day. And in the end, that hope was enough to heal a broken family and create something beautiful from the ashes of what had been lost. Hope, the baby and the feeling, had saved them all.